Tom Clark's 6M podcast is a Boink Studios production. And now, on with the show.
Hey, what is up? Welcome to Tom Clark's 6M podcast. I'm your host, Tom Clark, and in this episode, I'm joined by co-host Phil Lindsey. There's nothing like finishing out a series, right? There's nothing like wrapping up, at least for now. There's nothing like it. We've done it many times here on the 6M. No, I'm not going to go run it down. No, I'm not going to go, looking back and try to recall. It's late in the day. I'm tired. It's been a fairly long week. And plus, we've all got better things to do. Besides, you know where the archives are, kids. Go check them out. But here's what I'll tell you. We have wrapped up many trilogies. We've wrapped up 4-part series. We've wrapped up entire runs. That's kind of what we do here. Once we get started on something, we like to finish, depending on what the it is. Sometimes we avoid a movie or two, but that's a topic for another time. But today, we're wrapping up a series, man. Did we go out of order? Boy, you better believe it. Is it worth it? Boy, I hope you think so, because I think it is. Today we're doing Spider-Man Far From Home. And yes, we are wrapping up the Tom Holland Spider-Man series, at least for now. Stay tuned for that, okay? Because we've already done Homecoming and we've already done No Way Home. So we're wrapping up here today with this film. But there's more to come from Mr. Holland. So everybody get ready for that, okay? So today, as I said, we're definitely doing Far From Home. Great movie, fun movie, hadn't seen it in a long time. Lots of good stuff to talk about here. Great cast to talk about, especially the heavy. Man, this movie's awesome. I forgot how much I really dug it. We're going to get into it here today, along with some other things as well. But first, let's do this. Spider-Man Far From Home is a 2019 American superhero film based on the Marvel Comics character Spider-Man, co-produced by Columbia Pictures and Marvel Studios, and distributed by Sony Pictures Releasing. It is the sequel to Spider-Man Homecoming and the 23rd film in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. The film was directed by John Watts, written by Chris McKenna and Eric Summers, and stars Tom Holland as Peter Parker's Spider-Man, alongside an assorted cast of actors who join in to bring this movie to life. This is going to be good. In the film, Parker is recruited by Nick Fury and Mysterio to face the Elementals while he is on a high school trip to Europe. This one is a good one, kids. Complete running time, 129 minutes. Released at the TCL Chinese Theater. Still hate that. June 26, 2019. In the United States on July 2nd, 2019. The budget for this film is $160 million. The box office, grab something and hold on, $1.13 billion. I don't even have, I got nothing. I need a nap after reading that. I'm a Spider-Man guy, Marvel guy. I love that, but I can't wrap my head around it. Anyway, that's your lowdown for Spider-Man Far From Home. I'm getting choked up on that. So, Phil, this gem of a movie, this little indie project, this little indie film with a bunch of people we never heard of, happens to make $1.13 billion. Or I need a nap now, man. So, you're the Spider-Man guy. I love the character, always have. So, what do you think, man? Is this another example, as in the Sam Raimi Spider-Man series, where number 2, possibly top number 1? What do you think about this film?
I really like this movie. I don't know if it tops Homecoming for me. I really like Homecoming. I think at the time period that it came out, if I remember correctly, it's one of the few Spider-Man movies. As a matter of fact, it's probably the only Spider-Man movie that I did not go to the theater to see, because if I remember correctly, didn't it come out during the pandemic?
July 2nd, 2019.
Yeah. So I did not go to the movies to see it.
Mm.
I saw it after the fact. But, and I think that harmed some of the excitement around the movie because just where the world was at that time period. But I think that's also what makes this movie so great. The great thing about the Home trilogy, that people have come to call it at this point, is just the naming convention that they went with. Really, really smart stuff. Going with Homecoming, and it's literally culminating in him going to his homecoming dance. But also it's symbolic because it's Spider-Man coming home to the Marvel universe. Um, but then the second movie is treated very much like a summer vacation movie because it's the same kind of thing from the first movie where it's the teenage coming of age stuff and it's treated like a vacation movie. And so literally far from home because he's far from home. But you also get the symbolism of he's far from everything he knows. Like coming out of everything from Endgame, if I remember correctly, this is the first Marvel movie to take place right after Endgame. It's the last movie of that phase. And so he's lost a lot, man. He lost his
Mm.
mentor and Tony Stark's, and he doesn't know, how he wants to continue. And where we left off with him in Homecoming is that he decided, no, I don't need to be an Avenger to validate me. I don't. I want to be a ground level superhero. I want to be a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. My friends, my family, they need me. And so after the blip, everything changed. He came back and everything's different, not just because the world changed after the blip, but like I said, he lost Tony and he's been to space. He's done all of these big things that he thought he wanted as a member of the Avengers. And how do you go back to just being a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man after you've experienced all of that? I mean, he died.
Yeah, no kidding.
So it's like, how do you come back and just treat this you know, just like it's fine, like everything is normal. And we're getting such a great continuation from the first movie of him making the decision to be a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man and feeling like, hey, maybe I just want to be a kid that can go on a vacation or go to my homecoming dance. Um, I know that I have to do the right thing and all of these responsibilities are on my shoulders, but sometimes I just want to be a normal guy.
So, isn't it funny how, in part one, he was obsessed with becoming an Avenger. He kept blowing up Happy's phone. And then he had the opportunity and realized that's not who I need to be right now. And in this whole movie, he's the complete
Yeah.
opposite of what he was, right? What a change. What a great idea that was.
Yeah, the second movie is him trying to get away from all of these things because for one thing, he sees all the consequences that comes with that life, but then also he's trying to run away from anything that reminds him of Tony Stark.
Oh, good call. And by the way, you're right. For phase three, it was the last film of phase three. Dude, Endgame came out April 26th, and this movie came out July 2nd. Let me ask you this. I just had a near panic attack with the $1.13 billion number. So there's no doubt that Tom is wrong when he asks you this. But I will tell you this, at the time when I watched this, dude, Endgame, as you know, is draining. If you're a fan, if you love these characters, Endgame is a draining film. Like it meant, emotionally, mentally, in every way that counts. Like I need a nap after that movie. But like, I'm going to ask you this. Did this movie come too soon, you think?
No, I don't think it did. I think if anybody we want to see the immediate consequences
Mm.
after Endgame is probably the closest person at this point to Tony and somebody that was his protege, but also through him you get to see how all of these things affect real people. And I
Mm.
think that was kind of the great thing about this movie coming right out of Endgame. You saw how the blip affected real people. You're not just seeing how it affect superpower people and people that are above. You're seeing through him and through his supporting cast, how this affected people on the ground level.
That's a great point. I mean, to your point, like if the audience cared about seeing how anybody was directly affected, it would have been the guy that was closest. So, we know about the relationship between Steve and Tony. You and I have talked about that a lot here. We've documented all the Avengers films here on the show. Like, do you think at the end, like Tony was closer to Peter to some degree, even though he came back? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I wonder if he was. I don't know. The timing's probably off because Peter dusted away and everything. Then he was back in the very end. But it almost feels like that was, I don't know, maybe it took Steve's place to some degree for Tony. What do you think?
Well, I think you've got this great dynamic in Spider-Man comics that when Uncle Ben dies, he's chasing this relationship with people, and so every time he loses somebody, it just feels like he had to keep going through the same thing over and over again, where it's just like this happened because of me, because I was here, or
Mm.
because I couldn't be there, or because I didn't do this. And it's like he he's such a guilt-ridden character. And so um finding this father figure in Tony, and he's not even really ever acknowledging that that's what he's looking for in Tony, but it's clear as day. And so losing your parents first off, and that's not something that's ever really addressed here in this trilogy. It's not really addressed in a lot of Spider-Man comics, but it's something that hovers over everything. But losing both your parents, and then you get somebody that is a father for you, figure for you, and he means so much to you, and then he's gone, and then you get Tony, and now Tony's gone.
Mm.
It's just like it just keeps piling on and piling on. It's like you're continually in search of this thing in people, and it just keeps getting taken away from you. The rug keeps getting pulled from under you.
Dude, wasn't it Web of Spider-Man when they revealed that Peter's parents were spies? Do you remember that storyline?
Yes.
Dude, I'm like, oh, I don't know. I kind of didn't need that. Do you know what I mean?
I don't really care for that backstory either, but it's there. I know you want to add something and add a bigger scope to these things sometimes, but I was never a big fan of that.
Because his parents being gone was never his story. I mean, yeah, does he miss him? Sure, but were Ben and May the replacements? Yeah, they did a fantastic job with him. Like, I don't know, that part
Yeah.
was always weird. Oh, by the way, didn't they? Dude, I'm forgetting in the Garfield films. Didn't they do that as well in those movies?
Yeah, his dad was like a scientist or something, but that's
That's
really
right.
linked to the Ultimate Spider-Man comics.
Yeah, that's right. They had to go. So it's still such a weird moment because I remember in the flashback, didn't he tell him like be good or something? I'm like, that's what you leave your kid with? I don't know, man.
Yeah.
Very weird to me.
Yeah, but man, there's so many very brilliant things they do in this movie. I did not catch this until I watched it multiple times. I'm gonna throw this at you and see if you noticed it.
Mm-hmm.
There's a part where he's talking. He goes to the charity event with May, and he's talking to Hogan in the kitchen, and he comes out and he's in the in-game suit, and he's standing in front of a bunch of people asking questions, and they're snapping pictures. It's what was supposed to happen if he walked through the door at the end of Homecoming. And in that moment when he's standing there and you can see he's not ready. And it's what he knew then, he wasn't ready.
That's a great pull. Yeah, well done. You like the kid with the plate on her face that's tied on with a string? Like, dude, it's
Yeah,
great.
he's out there and they're flashing all these pictures, and they're asking him all these questions, and he's
Yeah.
just like, I can't handle all of this. It's overwhelming. I mean, it's overwhelming for different reasons as well, because Tony's not there. But one day I noticed that, and I was like, he's wearing the suit that he was supposed to put on, and he's talking to a crowd of people that are asking him all these questions. And before, he would have had Tony to help him guide him through it, and now he's doing it alone.
When he turned and goes through that curtain with his mask off, I thought, are the reporters right there? I genuinely thought, like, he's about to show the world who he is, man. Maybe that was a tease for what was going to come later, too. Interesting.
Yeah.
Dude, we talked about in the review of Homecoming, that they love blowing this guy up. They've been blowing this guy up since Stan Lee and Steve Ditko created him. They've been blowing him up. Like, this guy can never have a normal life. No such thing for Spider-Man. Dude, they blew him up at the end of this movie. Like, not to jump right to it, but man, blew him up. Like at the end, they could have just rolled credits and he swung off with Mary Jane, all was well. Like, nope, you don't get a happy ending. What are you, crazy? This is Spider-Man. We don't do that here.
What a great cliffhanger.
Woo.
Excellent cliffhanger.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and the thing that I think is great about that closing credit scene is that you can look at it and go, "Oh wait, the cliffhanger or the big surprise is that uh Jameson's back and he's played by same actor,
Mm-hmm.
and that actually isn't it. Um, it's the actual stinger of the movie that Mysterio gets the last laugh, and it's such a great cliffhanger for multiple reasons, but also more than anything, just how relevant it is. Uh, having Jay Jonah be somebody that hosts an online news show that's about misleading people in this time period in a world of InfoWars and Breitbart and all of these other things. And of course, that's what Jay Jonah would be doing in this time period.
Of course he is. Yeah. Yeah. That's wild. Yeah. Uh, I don't know how I place this one. I thoroughly enjoyed this movie. I thought it was a great sequel. And I don't know if it does outweigh Homecoming, but there's moments watching this back, I'm like, man, this is pretty impressive. Like, every time a sequel's made to anything, Phil, you're kind of holding your breath, hoping that nothing weird happens. I didn't get any cringe at all in this film. Not one bit of cringe. The only cringe I got was from how completely inept Nick Fury had suddenly become, where he trusted this dude that just showed up out of nowhere, talking about he didn't know anything. And then you get the reveal at the end that they were never who they said they were. Him and Maria were not who they said they were. They were Skrulls. Like, dude, what a great reveal, because it explained a lot of stuff about Fury's behavior in this movie, man.
Yeah. Yes.
Dude.
Yeah. I mean, but to your point of how he's chasing this thing, like in the first movie, he would have thought it was the coolest thing in the world to get a phone call from Nick Fury. He hangs up on Nick Fury.
Yes, he ghosts him. He won't answer. Oh my. I like how Hogan's like, well, I'm scared of him. Like he got him to admit that he's scared of him, is why he won't talk to him. So talking about the cast, we know Mysterio is the heavy, and for the first time we see Jake Gyllenhaal, and hopefully not the last. Phil, this guy there's a reason why he's held in such high regard. He is phenomenal. Like, he is so believable here. If you didn't know who Mysterio was, you would probably never guess he's a villain. He's fantastic in this movie, man. I can't say enough good things about him. What do you think about that? And also, we got a comics accurate Mysterio with a fishbowl on his head. Never thought I'd ever see it in my life, and they made it happen, dude.
Yes. Big fan of Mysterio in comics. So I've been waiting for them to do Mysterio in a comic book movie. And so when I saw he was going to be the villain for this movie, or even the fact that he was in it, I immediately got excited. I was like, oh man, I've been waiting for somebody to do Mysterio. And man, what a great choice. The way they did it was excellent. Jake Gyllenhaal was fantastic in his role. All of the meta stuff they did with this, so good. Picking a guy that at one point was very close to playing Spider-Man. If people know their lore of this, I believe the story is that Toby was close to not coming back for the second movie because he hurt his back while filming Seabiscuit. And so all the jokes about the back injury in Spider-Man 2 are all based off of that. But yeah, at one point they were worried that Toby would not be able to play Spider-Man in the second movie. And so his replacement was going to be Jake Gyllenhaal. And so the idea in this movie of having a superhero that's not Tony mentoring Peter Parker, and it's the guy that was going to play Spider-Man. Very funny wink and nod. Also stuff like him wearing the mocap suit.
Oh, well done. Yeah, good pull, man.
Very funny wink and nod. There's a point when he's like, get this stupid suit off me, and he's talking once he's revealing his plan, and he's revealing everything, and he's just wearing the green part that's under the armor part, and it looks very much like the Mysterio suit from the comics, which is just like the plain suit with the cape and the fishbowl. And there's so many things like that that I noticed that they did with him. But I also thought it was very smart the way that they played this, because you did get at one point, because we heard all of the stuff coming into this movie with the multiverse, and that's where they were going next. So they got us to buy in. They got me to buy in midway throughout this movie that, oh, okay, maybe this Mysterio is not a bad guy. He's really a Mysterio from alternate universe that means well, and we're gonna see the real Mysterio at some point. But this guy's a good guy; he wants to help. And so when we do get the reveal, it's like, of course, because at some point, we're all waiting for the shoe to drop, like, because it's Mysterio. Like, I mean, Mysterio, if anything, that if you've read anything about him, if you've seen him in any of the shows and anything, he's not what he seems. And so for most of the movie, I'm thinking like, oh, he's gonna do something that shows he's not a good guy. But all the way up to the second Eternals fight, I was still looking around like, hey, maybe this guy is all right. And then in the second Eternals fight, I was like, oh yeah, yeah. And the reveal of him actually
In
being
in
not
that
who he says
bar.
is so
Oh,
good. The reveal,
wow.
the reveal is so good. The way that they connected the dots to Tony, and I know that's going to be a controversial thing from this movie, because people don't like that some of his villains are connected so much to Tony. But
Look, we've
man,
established, Phil. I know where you're going. We've established Tony's sins are haunting everybody after the fact because he committed a lot of sins, man.
hey, sins of the father.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
I thought that was a very clear thing that they were doing here with Peter. All of the sins of your father figure are coming down to roost with you. And
Mhm.
so you've had to deal with all of these things that have gone unnoticed by Tony. But man, that reveal that he was standing backstage uh, during the scene from Civil War, the bar scene,
Mm.
great. The guy that's helping him is the guy from Iron Man 1. All of those tiebacks
I
were so smart.
never recognized him at all. Not once.
It's the guy from that movie. They used the exact same guy. I'm sure that they did some editing to put Jake Gyllenhaal in the Civil War scene, but
Sure.
still, the way they tied all of those things together was great. When he's standing there and he's saying his thank yous to everybody for helping put this together, and he's like, "Oh, well, you came up with this story of a multiversal hero," and at one point nobody would have believed that, but people bought it. And like, when you see like the drones and everything, how this worked, the illusions and everything, all very, very smart the way that they wrote this character. And the illusions are so good. When we get to the scene where he turns on Peter and he tries to kill him, that scene where he's working his way through all those illusions, it's so good.
It's awesome. I mean, it's beautiful. Like this whole movie, this John Watts character, man, everything that has to do with Tom Holland and Spider-Man, this guy needs to be the director because he gets it. He understands what this is. Like, Phil, not a lot of directors get this world, and that's why a lot of directors come and go and they burn out. But dude, this Watts guy, he gets it, man.
Yeah, I love it. I love that the illusion is going on, and the whole time, uh, Beck is playing with his mind, and he's saying, "No, you told me that you didn't want to do this anymore. You told me you wanted to go and be with that girl," and all the illusions are reacting to all of it. So good.
My God, fantastic! Like, dude, I'm so glad you fell for Mysterio because if you'd told me, yeah, I figured it out, I'd have been upset because, like, dude, I totally fell for this guy. I thought, yeah, he's like you. Well, maybe we'll see another Gyllenhaal. Maybe we'll see him again inside the movie from another reality. And by the way, I got excited because this was the multiverse. Because
Yeah.
tell me if I'm wrong. Wasn't this the first time this has been said out loud in an MCU film at that point?
Yes.
Mm.
So yeah, when you introduce this idea of a multiverse, you immediately think, okay, well, this guy could be on the up and up. Maybe he's who he says he is. And then later, we'll find out that there's another Mysterio, because that's also a thing from the comics, that there's more than one Mysterio. But yeah, of course,
Hmm.
when Beck ends up being a fraud, It's like, of course he's a fraud because it's Mysterio.
Mysterio.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
man, that I just can't say enough great things about the illusion scene and just his monologue to him throughout. And I mean, even just the little bits of it when the illusion first starts and Peter yells, "Where are you, Beck?" It's it's such a thing, like right out of the comics, right out of the cartoons.
Yeah.
So great.
And second time that our main character has butted heads with a full blown man who wants to kill him. Like, dude, this team, these disgruntled Stark employees that Tony ruined their lives, they went from not wanting to kill kids to wanting to kill kids pretty darn fast, didn't they?
Yes. Well, I mean, Beck does point out immediately. He said I was unstable, and I mean, you're looking pretty unstable, buddy.
A little bit. A little bit, Jar.
He had the nerve to fire me because I was unstable.
Yeah.
You seem pretty unstable, sir. Yeah, but even all of his motives around this, he's got so many great lines that when you revisit them, so good. When Peter comes in and he's like marking out about all the science stuff,
Yeah. Yes.
and he's like, "I'm sorry, I think it's cool," and then he tells him immediately, "Never apologize for being the smartest guy in the room."
Love it. Are you kidding me? What a great line.
Yeah, just so great because of course he's outsmarting all of them. He's weaseled his way in under people's noses, and like straight away now he knows Peter's secret identity. He knows all these inner workings that he's not
Yeah.
supposed to know. But
Dude, when he put those glasses on in that bar, did you not for a second think, I think this guy's the next Iron Man? Look at him. Like, dude, that moment, it was just an actor putting on glasses. I was floored by that. I'm like, this is fantastic.
yeah,
Man. Woo. They had me, dude. They had me up to the moment that Peter walked out. And the second he walked out and the illusion revealed itself, I was like, oh no. Oh crap. I got fooled.
well, the second I knew that he was a fraud was when Peter's fighting the elemental and he pulls the projector out of that out of the illusion that's next to the Ferris wheel. And I was like, oh no, because what it immediately made me think of was the animated series where his illusions were made out of those cubes.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Man, incredible stuff, man. You think we'll get Gyllenhaal back at some point to play another role? Have you heard anything or read anything about that?
Well, I haven't, but I would love to see him do something else. I would love. I was kind of disappointed we didn't get anything with Mysterio in the third movie. I would have loved it if we found out that he faked his death and he was still alive. Uh, because we do see him die once in this movie. So then when he does die at the end of the movie, Peter's like, Edith, is he dead? Because I've seen this guy get shot before and he fooled me. Which again started an illusion of him thinking that Beck got shot. And so he's telling Nick Fury everything. And he goes, boy, smart as a whip, but you are so gullible.
Yeah. I think it would be fun to cast him in another Spider-Man flick, but cast him as a character. And the entire movie, Holland believes it becomes a running joke to a point where he would turn around and go, dude, I'm not Mysterio. Like, no matter what he says, he can't convince him. That would be fun, honestly. Because, like, yeah, dude, that would be fun. If he played like another hero that did come through the multiverse, like, I'd kind of be here for that, man.
Yes.
That'd be cool.
I love that they've ramped up the threat in all of these movies. That's usually what happens in the second movie.
Mm-hmm.
And we're so used to either it being Dr. Octopus or Green Goblin that is the worst thing that ever happens to Peter Parker. Like you could say they're one A and 1B as his worst enemies.
I agree with that. Sure.
I mean, I've seen Dan Slott make the argument that it's Dr. Octopus, and I understand why. But Green Goblin, of course, has ruined his life in so many ways, killed his girlfriend, all these other things.
Yep.
So I love that we get Mysterio here, and Mysterio effectively ruins his life. Like, completely ruined his life.
Completely. Dude, at this point, he's done more damage to Peter's life than anybody else ever has at this point.
Yes. I mean, you can make an argument about Norman, of course, in the third movie, killing somebody that he loves, because, of course, Norman always does it.
Yeah, good point. Good point.
But, yeah, in this movie, I love that you can see how the thing I referenced earlier, that he's wearing this on his sleeve, that he needs somebody. I mean, when he's packing his suitcase and running away from everything that's happening in New York, and they do the shot of him closing the suitcase, and you can see Ben's initials on there. Such small touches like that, where they don't have to say the void that Uncle Ben has left in his life. It's there. It's right in front of you.
Yeah. That's a great point. Yeah.
Boink Studios is the home of Tom Clark's Main Event, Tom Clark's 6M podcast, and Two Nations Under Ted, a Ted Lasso podcast. Visit the site today for links to every podcast platform, social media, special announcements, and a lot more. Check out the site and bookmark today, boinkstudios.com.
Can we say also that Holland has filled out in this movie? Like, this is only 2 years after Homecoming, but like his frame has filled out, and you're like, this dude's growing up, like getting older. You know what I mean? It's only 2 years, but like I noticed that in the t-shirt during that scene where he's packing, and I'm like, yeah, they're only going to be believably be able to portray this guy as a kid to a certain point, and they're going to have to age him up, especially when he comes back, Phil, because it's, this movie was, 2019, and then, No Way Home was probably, what was No Way Home? Gosh, it's been a while since we've covered it here, but like either way, dude, they're going to have to, I don't know, age him up. But, we should also point out here, dude, that in this movie, much like in Endgame, this movie takes place technically in 2019, but when this movie takes place for them, it's 2024 because they are 5 years ahead.
Yeah. I believe No Way Home was 2021. I think it was the end of 2021.
That sounds right.
It was heading into Christmas season.
That sounds right. No Way Home was 2021. Yeah, you're right.
Yes. But I did notice that as well. But I think that's the great thing about having him very early on and having him so young early on. You watch, because at this point, it doesn't seem like it, but we've seen him in 4 movies of Spider-Man.
That's true.
So we get to see him bright-eyed and skinny in the first movie, and then we see him getting older throughout. And in this movie, it could be just me, but at the beginning of the movie, when he pulls his mask off for the first time and his hair is slicked back, very much looks like Ditko Peter Parker.
Oh.
The way he draws him with the big round flank frames and his hair is like slicked back.
Yeah.
Looks very much like how Ditko used to draw him.
Yeah, that's fair. That's good. I like that. Yeah, well, I mean, we've established that he's the best looking Spider-Man for sure because he fits the comics. No doubt about it. So let me say for the record before we really dive into this cast, J.B. Smoove has no business being in this movie. He does not fit. It's almost like they put him in as a favor. He's freaking awesome. Like,
he's so funny, man.
He's so funny.
He's so funny, but he's so funny in everything. I think of him from Curb all the time because he's so funny.
Oh my God.
But yeah, when he's saying, for my scientific opinion,
yes,
witches.
There's so many moments I'm like, why is he in this movie? They don't need him. But dude, at this point, I'm like, just put him in every movie. He's great, man.
All of his little passing moments where he has a line. So funny. And he's like, welcome to the dark age.
Yeah. He mentioned the witches thing again later too. So good.
So funny, man.
I had to throw that in. And just, my God, that guy, so awesome. Like that's his shtick, is that the bit player. Like, yeah, that's great. I popped off that like crazy. So we've got Zendaya back as MJ. She's back again. Here is and man, Peter's all about her, dude. Like they really, 2 years have passed since we've technically seen these characters. So in that time, he's grown more and more attached to her, more and more fond of her, whatever you want to call it, to the point where he's, he really wants to make this work and he's serious about her. And then, what do you think about the dynamic between these two? I think their charisma is off the charts. I think it's what it worked. We didn't see it a whole lot in Homecoming, but we really see it here. Does it work for you? Because, as you know, Phil, these two became an item, I think, during filming and especially after. Don't even know if they're still together, but what do you think about the two of them in this movie?
Oh, they're engaged.
Oh, are they? Okay. Yeah.
I don't know if you've seen it. This might date this episode, but there's an IG video of Tom Holland at a family function with her. It is hilarious.
Is it? That's great. I'll have to look it up.
Her family is very black. And so they're like, I don't know what are their relations to Zendaya, but they're guys that are like filming their live and they're like, yep. And so they're filming her and she's like dancing and stuff like them because it's a family party. And they're like, oh, well, we don't want to miss Spider-Man. So they're like filming him, and the whole time they're calling him Spider-Man. It's so funny, man. It's hilarious.
That's great, man.
But of course, he sticks out like a sore thumb because not only is he like famous guy that plays Spider-Man, but he's very white. And her whole family is very black. It's so funny.
Dude, I don't know what would be considered a typical looking white guy, but like Johnny Depp, to me, Johnny Depp's a white guy, but when I don't see white guy. When I look at Tom Holland, that's a white guy. The hair, the skin, clean shaped baby face. I'm like, come on, that's a white guy.
It's so funny, man. But no, they have great chemistry here. I thought that they did a great job of, because the great dynamic between them in the first movie is, like I said, they did the Lucas thing where Lucas spent the entire movie chasing this girl. He wants the popular girl. He wants the cheerleader, or at least the new girl. She wasn't a cheerleader yet, but he wants the new girl. And the entire time, Winona Ryder's character in that movie is like, I like you. And he's not noticing it at all. Lucas is never noticing that this girl is following him around and she really likes him. Mm-hmm. And so it's the same thing in the first movie. You could see that MJ likes him. It's like blatantly obvious that she likes him. And he is just not catching it at all. And
not at all.
When you get to this movie and you can see he likes her too, and the whole time he's just like, well, I don't know if she's gonna be into that, and I don't know if she. It's like, dude, like, and so when we get to the scene where he goes to her door and says, "Go out with me," and she's like, "Yes," immediately, yes, because it's like, of course, if you've been watching the first movie and the first hour of this movie, it's blatantly obvious that she likes him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was glad to see that things progressed here. Glad to see that she's not dead, because Spider-Man's girlfriends don't tend to fare too awful well. Either they die or he pushes them away because he has to. But yeah, I was glad to see she's still with us here.
Yeah.
No mention of the Vulture or his daughter, so they moved away from that. Not that they would revisit Phil, but never even mentioned him, I don't think.
No, we got a great reference to it in the third movie, but this is, again, how great those illusions are, because we do get the Beck illusion of him holding her by the neck, and then he drops her, and then he jumps to save her, and he just lands flat on the ground, and she's gone. Because, of course, multiple times, Spider-Man love interest thrown off a building.
Of course. Like I said, man, he's a Shakespearean character. If Marvel's ever had a Shakespearean character, it is absolutely Spider-Man, for sure.
Yeah, but she's great. I love I love just how smart and witty she is in this. I love that she figures it out, and as soon as she figures it out, it's like, yeah, of course, I knew all along. And kind of, it's like, I had a hunch. I can't believe I got that right. And so I love when they're in the room with Ned later, and Ned's trying to come up with an excuse for why he's wearing the night monkey suit.
The night monkey.
And so he goes, I told her, and she goes, I figured it out.
I mean, dude, when he's locked up in jail with those happy guys in the Netherlands, if you listen to the TV cop, they're talking about Spider Monkey, I believe, on that TV. Or it's the cop, isn't it, when he calls in? That's what it is.
He's on the phone. He's like, yeah, night monkey.
Night monkey, yeah. What a great, it's like the Peter Tingle. You know what I mean? It's like little stuff, dude. This is the first time they established the Spidey sense, which is cool. That didn't happen in either Avenger movie, did it?
This is the great thing about us seeing him for 4 movies, because they did this through line throughout the movies. We don't see him use the spider sense at all
Mm.
the first time we see him in Civil War. We don't really see him use it in Homecoming at all. But when he's sitting on a bus and all the stuff with Thanos is happening, they show that great scene of his hair raising off of his skin. And that's the first time we see him use the spider sense. And it develops more and more up to this movie.
Yeah, the Peter Tingle. Dude, he's doomed to have just weird, goofy stuff. Like it's never going to be like top shelf Thor, Iron Man kind of stuff. It's always going to be hokey, funny stuff, you know? I mean, to be fair, Tony did it to Thor as much as he does it to Peter, kind of poking fun at him.
Under ruse.
Under ruse. And Point Break. Don't take offense, Point Break. You know, you throw a mean hammer, you know? So, yeah.
This is another thing. They did so many smart things in this movie. There's another thing I did not notice. I watched it multiple times. When he gets into the fight with Mysterio the first time, and it's the big illusion, and it's this big action set piece, it takes place in Berlin, which is the first place we see him as Spider-Man.
Oh, it does, doesn't it? That's good. Boy, they pay attention, man. I'm telling you, they care so much, man. I'm so glad they care so much.
So many great tiebacks to either Civil War or the first movie. Even the reveal with Gyllenhaal, and Gyllenhaal tells everybody a secret. He reacts the same way that May does to him in the first movie.
Yeah. What the? Yeah. Oh, I about 10 minutes in, I thought, oh no, May. And then I recalled, no, that happens in the third film. I'm like, oh, thank goodness. I didn't want to see that. Like, I love that film with the 3 Spider-Man. It's freaking fantastic. But, like, I don't want to see May die again, dude. It's too much.
My big takeaway, knowing what we know about the third movie and rewatching these films, you see how close they were in the first movie. Like, he relies on her for so much. Like, when he wants to take Liz to the dance in the first movie, and he's like, May, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to dance. And she teaches him how to dance. She teaches him how to tie a tie and all these other things. And in this movie, she's such a big part of his life. When he wants to ask MJ to be his girlfriend and he comes up with the whole plan, he runs it by her. He tells her everything. And she's such a big part of his life. I mean, even when she puts the suit in the briefcase with the little note on it and has a little heart on it. Oh, you forgot this. And it's like, and I don't know if you notice, every time they talk, he's never embarrassed to say in front of people, I love you.
Oh, that's good. I like that. Yeah.
And I think it's partially, again, it's just because the specter of Uncle Ben hangs so heavy over this, because what I always think about from the Raimi movies of how, you know, he's feeling himself. Once he became Spider-Man, he's like, you know, let me have my own life. You're not my father. And, you know, he pushed him off in such a drastic way, and then he never saw him again. And so I think you could see with just how they talk to each other, how they interact with each other, you could see that they both understand, you know, somebody could just be gone tomorrow. Everything is fleeting, you know.
Yeah.
He lost his parents. He lost his uncle. And it's just like, she's everything to him. She's his entire world. And that very much comes across in the first 2 movies. And, you know, talk about the chemistry he has with Zendaya. He has such great chemistry with Marissa Tomei, because just the way they talk to each other is just so great. It's so endearing.
Yeah. What do you think about the Favreau's back in this movie, kids, is Happy Hogan? What do you think about the very brief thing that he had with her, which she calls it a summer fling? He's like, well, you know, just matures. It changes over time. And she's like not having it. It's so funny.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, it's funny because they, of course, have done this ongoing joke since the first movie of everybody finds her attractive because, of course, she is very attractive. And so, but also from the comic books, May has dated multiple guys in the comics. She almost married Dr. Octopus.
That's right. That's right. Oh my. Yeah, dude. So good. I mean, Favreau's awesome. Like, I don't know if I can say he's underrated because I think people are very complimentary of what he's done for a couple of different universes here, which I think he deserves his flowers for sure. But man, sometimes I think the Hogan stuff is underrated. That deal where they're in the plane and dude, Peter's pulling up the virtual menus like Tony used to do, and Hogan's looking at him, he's like, "What?" He's like, "Nothing. I'll put on some music," and he puts on AC/DC, and I'm like, "That's emotional stuff, man." Because like you just again, Phil, this is a matter of months after Endgame, and when you see this in real time, you're like, "God, I miss Tony. I already miss him."
Subtext to that is also very great. Tony was hitting on May a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And when Tony was gone, Favreau found something in her, and it was almost like a connection to Tony in some way. And I think I said this the first episode, but he has so many people that are kind of like vying to be this father figure in his life. And in some ways, Happy Hogan is trying to fill that void as well. So the subtext of him sitting there and saying, nobody could be Tony. I can't be what Tony was for you. And he didn't outright say it, but the subtext is there.
But dude, when he goes up and he hugs him and Happy doesn't know what to do.
Yeah. So good. And like you said, the scene where he's putting the suit together, so great. And you can see how it's just like he doesn't want to show how much, he misses Tony and how emotional it is for him in the same way. But it's like, man, I miss him too. And it's like he picked you for a reason.
Yeah.
Oh
my God.
All of that stuff is so emotional. I think it's also great that they definitively answered this criticism that is online, and it still persisted for some reason of people saying, well, Marvel basically made him into Iron Man Jr. And I thought that this movie outright answered this question of why he isn't Iron Man Jr. He spends the entire movie trying to be his own person and get away from the shadow of Tony Stark. I mean, he outright rejects it. He rejects the sunglasses. And so when he does like put the suit together, it's not like he is trying to replicate what Tony would do, because he doesn't know what Tony would do. He's not Tony.
He's not Tony. Yeah. That's too much burden. Hey, look, there's an interesting dichotomy at play here that I don't know if I connected the dots till now. We did the Captain America episode, and we've talked before about Winter Soldier and how all that, and Falcon, the new movies coming out and all that. What about the idea of replacing Iron Man? Like, we've never really touched on that here, but like, he tells him you're heavy as the head, right? Like, dude, how in the world would you replace Iron Man? We're talking about not the books. We know that Rhodey stepped in, but I'm talking about the movies. Like, God, man, that's a huge task for anybody, man.
Yeah. We're getting an Ironheart show soon, I believe.
Sure.
So they're going to try to address being a predecessor to Iron Man. But I just think it shows at multiple times why he cannot be Tony, because he's had to pay for Tony's multiple mistakes. And I think the way he handles all of these things shows why him and Tony are not the same. Because, I mean, straight away, Tony would have killed Beck. He just outright killed him. Peter tries to reason with him multiple times.
Yeah.
His undoing isn't Peter. His undoing is his own greed. It's his own lust for power. But there's so many times in this where he tried to be better. He tried to be a better man than Tony was. I mean, we saw that with the Vulture stuff. The reason why Vulture came to respect him is because he didn't just like go, you're the bad guy. He tried to reason with him. He tried to save him.
I mean, Quentin Beck was not going to be saved here because his motivations blinded him. There's a couple different moments where he's like, for what it's worth, I really am sorry. Like, I don't know that this guy let's kill a teenager. I don't think that was his goal in the beginning, but when it became clear that Peter was in his way, it's like, well, nothing matters except what I came here to do, and you're in the way of that.
Yes. The thing that I love about this version of Mysterio is that you can see that he respects above everything else intelligence.
Yeah.
And so I think he respects Peter's intelligence, and I think he respects him. I think he also kind of respects his how naive he is in some ways.
Hmm.
And so it's like, oh, don't make me do this, kid. Don't make me have to. Don't make me have to do this because you're not like them. You're not like Tony.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
But if I have to, I will get rid of you. If you
Yeah.
stand in my way, I will get rid of you.
Man alive. Cold-hearted. Cold-hearted, but that's the character. Like, you
Yeah.
know, oh, man, so
Yeah.
good.
Conniving, self-centered, a fraud. That's who Mysterio is supposed to
fraud.
be.
Yeah.
And man, he gives so many lines. What a relevant movie for that time period. We were heading towards the end of the Trump era in America,
Mm-hmm.
Before it was kickstarted again for reasons that I do not understand.
Complete. Yeah, for sure.
We were heading towards the end of his first term as president. And I think that there are a lot of things that they say in this movie. It's not a political movie, but there are very political things in this movie. I mean, it's undeniable. Drones, how they handle foreign affairs and certain things. But there's so much taken away from that time period and this era this era of misinformation. And I thought that was such a great way to introduce Mysterio as this guy that, of course, because his whole bit is illusions, his whole bit is misleading people. Of course, he's like, oh, the perfect time for me to step up and fool people is when everybody else is gone.
Mm-hmm.
It's right after Endgame. All of the other heroes are gone. Anybody that could have stopped me, they're gone. And that's why he gives that great line at one point of, they used to didn't believe, but now they'll believe anything.
You know what's great? Because there's that bit. Oh, by the way, you're right. You're right. And by the way, that's how we live now. Isn't that awesome?
Yeah, such a great analog for the world we live in now in Mysterio, with the stuff that they did later in the movie with the reveal of Jay Jonah, and the fact that Jay Jonah would think that he is a hero. Because, of course, if we're going by the analogy of InfoWar and who they think is a hero,
yeah,
it's the bad guy.
Yeah. Oh my. Yeah. Well, look, the part, because this just jumped in my head, the part where, he's kind of feeling out Nick Jackson, Sam Jackson, kids, in case you didn't know, Nick Fury, of course, is back as always. But when he tells his team, hey, no Avengers, basically we're in the clear, we're good, no Avengers are coming. And I'm thinking, well, who do you think's coming? Like, Hulk, and Tony's gone. We all know Tony's gone. So, and Thor, but dude, they also don't know about Cap. This is months after the events of Endgame in real time. And like, they don't know, for all they know, Cap is still Cap and ripped and young looking, but they don't know he's no longer here.
Yes.
Yeah.
But this, again, such a great analog for where we were as a country, where the world was.
Yeah.
After this period of inspiration for people and hope, and this vacuum existed, and this guy came in and misled everybody because they were waiting for somebody to lead them out of the darkness after the blip. Because people were scared. People didn't know what to think. And this guy came in and he lied.
Yeah.
And he tricked them into believing in him.
And it worked.
What a great analog. And
what a great analog.
I think doing that with Gyllenhaal, and there's certain things Gyllenhaal does, I'm like, oh, there's no way that is not inspired by Trump. It's no way it's not.
And, I like that they can confront these things and not have to put it so far on the nose. Here's what I tell you. We're going to do that Daredevil series when it comes out. I freaking can't wait for it. Dude, Fisk is the mayor of New York.
Yeah.
Like, dude, you talk about full circle for what you're talking about. Oh my God. Can you imagine how that's going to be?
Yeah. I mean, following the very first MCU movie, technically. Well, second, right after Iron Man is the Incredible Hulk movie. And we're introduced to Thunderbolt Ross all the way back then. We're introduced to him as a bad guy. He's the president of the United States.
Very good. Very true. That's right. Yeah. The bad guy. Oh, my. Yeah, dude. You kidding me? Yeah, it's mind-numbing. It's mind-numbing, kids. Don't let Harrison Ford's rugged good looks fool you. He's not a good dude. Well, not in this movie, anyway.
Yeah, but man, I love those because again, I'm not going to say it's just an outright political movie, but
Sure.
there's so many bits here that are clearly political.
Yeah, I agree with that. I was thinking back about this time, and of course, while I'm very grateful that COVID, we are over the absolute worst of it, and hopefully it will never become what it was at one point. But I'll tell you this, part of me is like, well, I'm glad we're out of that. We're not out of it. Like, we're out of the COVID part, but we're right back in the crap up to our necks now. Like,
yeah,
you and I and a lot of other people chose not to be here, but 2 million more people chose to put us back in this crap, dude. It is insane.
Yeah. I mean, but yeah, he just says so many great things that are such great analog, and it's so relevant even right now. I mean, the line of, I'm Mysterio. The truth is whatever I say it is. I'm Mysterio. I am the truth.
Yeah. Yes. God. I mean, yeah, he's got a lot of them. He says, how could you do all this? You'll see, Peter. People need to believe, and nowadays they'll believe anything. That's what you said earlier. Yeah.
Yes. And his whole scheme is not to use the technology to take over the world. It's to trick people into believing that they need him.
Mm.
And again, if that's not a great analog for the world we live in, of creating a threat and being the guy that solves it to make people think that they need you.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost too on the nose.
It's true. By the way, we talked about Stan earlier. This is the first Marvel Studios movie without a cameo by Stan Lee.
Yes.
Also something else that adds to it.
Yes. But I think that's also what adds to that. Because, I mean, we talked about Homecoming coming out and how it was just such a joyous occasion, him coming to Marvel. And just, man, where the world is now and where the world was when this movie came out in 2019. And just how much uncertainty there was in the world. It just, I don't know, it almost permeated through entertainment at that time.
Yeah, it's hard to ignore. Honestly, it's hard to ignore. Hard to ignore now, because there again, we not, when I say we, I don't mean we here, but man, what have we done to ourselves? Just put ourselves right back in the crap, dude. I just can't.
Yeah. And they did something also rather brilliant here. I might have overthought this movie because I've seen it multiple times. But because this movie is treated like the vacation movie, like a stereotypical teenage movie, I think we ignore the fact that it's also supposed to be like a foreign espionage movie. And that's where the political stuff that comes in there, that's under the surface of it being like teenagers on a high school trip.
Yeah. Spider, what is it? Night Monkey. By the way, it's a wink and a nod to Spider-Man Noir. Or what's this outfit called in the books? This is Spider-Man Stealth. Is this the stealth suit? It's called in the books, I think.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I thought the stealth suit looks great.
It does.
I love it. I love the second suit that he makes by the end of the movie as well. Really, really great. We don't see him wear that suit long.
Yeah. And, it's fingerless gloves, which I still have a problem with every hero or villain that wears fingerless gloves, because I'm like, you're leaving fingerprints. What are we doing? Oh, anytime I see that, I'm the nerd that's bumping up against it, for sure.
Yeah.
We have not mentioned Jacob Batalon, who's back here as Ned Leeds. Always great. Who has a sudden and then suddenly not relationship with Betty, which is freaking awesome. How they're suddenly the center of each other's worlds. And they never noticed each other before, and then it's over as quick as it began.
Brilliantly written movie. He's
Yeah.
telling him the whole time going into his trip, no, we're going to Europe. We should go to Europe as bachelors. And so everything is going bad for Peter. He looks like he's not going to get the girl. And meanwhile, Ned gets a girlfriend. And he's like, well, wait a minute. What happened to we're supposed to be bachelors?
Yeah.
He's just like, well, sometimes when you meet a girl, he gives him this whole speech about them sitting on the plane. And it's also playing out, it's Peter's worst fear in that moment that she's sitting next to this guy that she's going to end up really liking. And it happens with Ned and Betty. It's so funny.
Yeah. Oh my God. It's so great. Tom Clark's 6M podcast is sponsored in part by Radius Law Group. Every day, Radius helps individuals, families, small businesses, and nonprofit organizations throughout North Carolina, Florida, and Pennsylvania resolve their legal issues by providing effective legal counsel in the areas of estate planning, as well as elder law and Medicaid. Radius Law holds the radical belief that working with a lawyer can indeed be enjoyable. So give them a call at 1-800-519-5667 for more information and tell them that Tom Clark's 6M podcast sent you. He's fantastic, man. This guy, him and Holland together are great. I could watch a movie that's not Spider-Man with these two guys as the two leads.
It's so funny that he's basically trying to tell him, oh, don't worry about that guy. You're being paranoid. But in the meantime, exactly what he's afraid of happened with him and Betty. He's like, well, what do you mean?
Yeah. Well, as much as I love these two guys together, I kind of wish Flash had more to do here. Tony Revolori is back as Flash. There's the bit on the plane where she tells him, he's really 16. He's not really 21, because he blipped and everything. And then later on, they're all in trouble, and he's like, this is my fault, or I'm going to die. And Hogan's like, hey, he's like, if not for you, Spider-Man never would have found us. Because, dude, he's a huge mark for Spider-Man.
Yeah. Yeah, that line... He inspired me to be a better man. What's up, Dickwad?
Yeah. I sent that to you because I was watching it. And you're like, wait, what happened?
It's such a funny line.
It's great.
I love that he's just like, nah, but they're all marking out over Mysterio. He's just like, he's not nearly as good as Spider-Man.
Yeah. Did you notice, by the way, backstage at the charity event, there is a Crusher Hogan poster backstage?
Yes, I did notice that.
Oh, it's so good. Kids, if you're paying attention, that's the character in the books that he fought. So yeah, very, very cool.
Yeah. Not Bonesaw.
Not Bonesaw. Bonesaw's ready. Yeah. Wow. I wish it had been Bonesaw. That would have been even more fun. So storyboards by Jeffrey Henderson revealed that there were plans for Bruce Campbell to cameo as Mysterio in Sam Raimi's canceled Spider-Man 4 as part of a montage of C and D list villains that we knew would never be used as main antagonists. He later confirmed these plans. I missed that were really great cameo we had designed for Bruce. Mysterio was one of the possibilities. And so, man, under Raimi's watch, Mysterio would not have been an A-list top tier main villain. Isn't that something? Yeah. I think I ever heard that.
Do we have a director yet for Spider-Man 4?
I want to say it's Watts, but I don't know for sure. I'm sure we could find out here. So Spider-Man No Way Home, of course, 2021. And let's see, by August 2019, the fourth film of the franchise was in development alongside No Way Home. And then in February of 21, Holland said No Way Home was the final film under his contract, but he hoped to continue playing Spider-Man in the future if asked. That October, Holland said No Way Home was being treated as the end of a franchise that began with Homecoming, with any additional solo films featuring the MCU Spider-Man characters be different from the first trilogy of films and feature a tonal change. So basically, the comments just kept on and kept on and kept on. And basically where we are now, Holland said filming would begin in mid-2025, and the film was scheduled for release on July 24th, 2026. And as far as a director, Destin Daniel Cretton,
Oh,
who
he directed Shang-Chi.
he did. So I still don't know why we're not bringing back John Watts, but I guess if you're looking for a tone shift, maybe that makes sense, Phil.
Yeah, he's not it. I mean, I love the idea that he directed the Home trilogy, and that was just his entire high school life. And once he left high school, somebody else took over.
Mm-hmm.
That's basically what happened in the books.
Oh, yeah.
You had the brief parts in his high school years, and then when he went to college, it was completely different tone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that I'm so looking forward to it. I can't wait to see what happens. Like I'm just here for it. Like I don't know, anything's possible, Phil, but I mean, to me, they would have to screw something up, royally screw something up for that film not to work. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, I asked if he has a director for 4 because, boy, they had the chance to do the funniest thing in the world and let Sam Raimi direct that movie.
Can you imagine?
That would have been very funny. Sam Raimi gets to direct Spider-Man 4 after all.
Yeah, right? Yeah, he gets to come back. That would have been great. Martin Starr is back as the teacher and chaperone on the trip. Always funny guy. Kobe Smulders is here as Maria Hill, which, by the way, we touched briefly on Secret Invasion, but never reviewed the show. I mean, dude, they killed Maria Hill in that show, man. I don't understand.
Not a great show.
No, not a great show. Yeah, a lot of questionable choices, in my opinion, in that show.
It started so well, and then it just jumped off a cliff.
Yeah.
I don't think we saw enough of her as Maria Hill.
Wait, did we do Secret Invasion?
I don't think we did.
I think we did. See?
If we
see
did,
how
I
long?
forgot. If we did, I forgot. It's not a good show, though.
Well, crap. Maybe that's why we blocked it from our heads, man. Dude, I would just, because I remember doing the thumbnail for it, I would just about bet we did. And we did. Episode 152, released August 7th, 2023. How you like that? So, kids, if you want to go hear a podcast about a terrible show, go listen to it.
I don't remember that at all.
I see. We did, I promise. Oh, my God. Yeah, dude. This was only 2 years ago, year and a half ago, man. I already forgot about it.
Yeah. Not much to remember from that show either. Not a very good show.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think they use Maria Hill enough in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. She's such a great character. One of many great changes that Brian Michael Bendis impacted on modern day Marvel comics. There's so many things that you can see from the TV shows, from the movies that are his creations.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Who else?
I mean, obviously Miles Morales. That's another one of his creations.
That's fair.
When you look at like just the television network, I mean the stuff that was on Netflix. That's all Bendis. Bendis revitalized Daredevil comics at one point.
True.
That was his baby at one point. He, of course, brought Luke Cage to prominence again.
Alias.
Made him
Jennifer.
a main character. Yeah. Jessica Jones is his
Jessica
creation.
Jones. Yeah.
He created that character. There's a few things throughout that his fingerprints are all over. I'm trying to think off the top of my head who is a character other than Miles, of course, that he created from scratch that is used. So Jessica Jones is one. There are a bunch of others that I'm forgetting. But I mean, even WandaVision. WandaVision is heavily inspired by House of M, which of course was written by Brian Michael Bendis.
Oh, well done. Yeah.
I mean, there's other things like you can see like some of the influences from his Avengers run. There's also there as well. I mean, everything about how S.H.I.E.L.D. is handled. We see Victoria Hand at one point in the S.H.I.E.L.D. show. Also, Brian Michael Bendis' creation. Believe that's from his Avengers run. The stuff with Sword, that's also from his run.
By the way, I'm just looking here. Edith, because Tony has a fascination with AI, which worked out great with Ultron, didn't it? But Edith, which is even in death, I'm the hero.
Yes. Yeah, hilarious.
Oh, so the voice of Edith is Dawn Michelle King, who was the first assistant editor on both Far From Home and Spider-Man: Homecoming. So from out of nothing, they pulled the voice for that character.
Yeah.
It's funny.
Yeah, the Edith stuff is such a fun way to introduce the drone early in the movie. Um, very funny stuff.
What do you think about the new suit, the red and black? Because red and black. Come on, man, it's freaking great.
I love the new suit. I love it. It's enough of an update from the suit we see in the first movie, and I'm glad that he doesn't wear the nanotech suit the entire movie.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, I love it. I think it's great.
And this is the first time also we've heard the words Earth 616 mentioned.
Yes.
But Quentin lied. But we know that's the case. So Earth 833 is the universe in which Spider UK serves as a member of the Captain Britain Corps.
Which is such a funny nod because they're in London later in the movie.
Yeah, well done. Yeah. Man, I freaking love this movie. Like, looking at it in the context of that first, the hellscape that was then and that is now, I can definitely see the parallels of what their commentary was running throughout the film. But like, I don't feel this way now. But at the time when I saw this, I genuinely felt like I think it's too early. Like, again, man, that Tony stuff was just heavy stuff.
Yes.
And like, I don't know if they'd put this off to the beginning of the next year, I think it still would have made over $1 billion, but almost felt like, is Marvel going too fast? Like, let people breathe. I think I remember reading at the time, man, they're not giving you any time to get your breath from the Avengers. I don't know. Maybe in the long run, that didn't affect anything that moved forward because we still got content after this. But at the time, I was generally, concerned that maybe it was too quick.
Yes. I like so much about this movie. I love what they do with the spider sense in this movie. Him learning to trust his spider sense and developing it throughout it. When he uses it in the fight with the drones, excellent scene. So good. But also just the meta commentary of this is a young man that is seeking advice and seeking acceptance from adults, and he never once thinks like, okay, these adults are going to lead me astray. And so, and also using this plot line with the spider sense, it's the story of him learning to trust his own instincts and learning to be his own man. You don't have to go to them for anything. You have to be your own man. And of course, him having to learn that without Tony as well, that's a part of it. But what a smart way to do this. And I mean, even the stuff with him and Mysterio, when he finally beats Mysterio and he's like, you can't trick me anymore.
Yeah.
So great.
I mean, dude, the tone for this next, I don't know what we're going to get. If we'll get 3 more, I'd be here for that. I don't know. But like the tone for the next, whatever we get from this, I mean, dude, he's Spider-Man, man. Like he'll have to be. He's past the point of needing approval, and he's past the point of needing guidance, and he's just gonna have to figure. But dude, this will be a Spider-Man without Aunt May, and I'll be curious to see how they decide to play that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that they did so many great things throughout the first 3 movies to make it kind of like his origin into being the Spider-Man that we know from other media. Throughout this movie and of course in the last movie, taking away all of those things from this trilogy, taking away all the things he loves. Again, great way to use the naming convention of No Way Home, of all the things. He's separated from everything that he knew and loved from this trilogy by the end.
Mm-hmm.
But man, just so many great wink and nods. I don't know if this was intentional, but in the fight with the drones, and he's out there fighting for his life. At one point, he uses the webs, which, by the way, I think the web slinging in this movie is extremely underrated. The scene where we see him swinging in normal clothes, and he's like using the webs to try to keep that building up, and he jumps out of that building, and the way he swings out, so great. The web slinging at the end of the movie where he goes to meet MJ, also great.
Yeah, dude, it's excellent. Him, shooting webs through the water and stuff, and trying to hold those buildings together, like, yeah.
So
Did you find it? By the way, did you find interesting the first time he shot webs at like the hydro, the elemental, the water elemental, and he looks at his hand as if to say, "Why didn't that work?" And like I'm thinking, you shot webbing at a water monster. How would it work? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, they did so many great things with the animation of the web slinging and him using webs in the movie. When he shoots the webs at the fire elemental, and you can see the fire coming all the way up the web, up to his wrist, and he had to pull away.
Great.
So good. But yeah, like I said, he shoots all of these webs out of this building he's about to jump out of when the building is collapsing, and you can see him swinging and spinning back and forth from all of these buildings. It looks so cool. When he does that, when he's fighting the drones over Tower Bridge, and he throws that big web from both towers, and then he lands in it and springboards himself back up. So cool.
Great.
But man, towards the peak of this fight, when he finally catches Beck, and I don't know if this is intentional, but he makes a makeshift shield, and then he turns that the parts from the one drone into what looks like Mjolnir, and he's running up spinning it.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. That's great. That's wonderful. That's in the third act, yeah?
Yes, because he makes a sign into the shield, and then he takes some pieces from one of the drones, and he's spinning it to throw it up like a bomb.
I mean, look, in terms of the logic of this story, Peter had no clue he was not dealing with the actual Nick Fury. But like, dude, there's parts of this movie that I was like, I knew the end with the Skrulls was coming, but at the same time, I'm like, how did no one realize this was not Nick Fury? Because, dude, he has no clue what's going on. And like Peter, as much as he's a kid, he's been around enough smart guys to maybe push back a little bit and say, some of this is your fault. How did you not vet this guy? Did you not check him out? You just took his word for it? He's from another reality? Like,
well, we took his explanation at face value from early in the movie, where he says, I used to know everything, and then the blip happened and I don't know anything.
Yeah, that's
so people are looking at it like he's lost just like the rest of us, because he lost 4 years of his life.
Right.
But that also plays into Mysterio's plan of like, everybody needs something to believe in now, because everybody's so lost right now, and I gave them something to believe in, even this Nick Fury. He needed help. Like he thought of bringing heroes together, and it's like, oh, well, I can trust this guy. He's a hero.
Yeah. Of course. Did you see the in-flight selections on the plane that he could watch?
The Tony Stark story. So funny.
So it was The Snap, Finding Wakanda, Hunting Hydra, Nova, the PBS series, Nova, Einstein, Rosen, Bridges with Eric Selvig, and of course, Heart of Iron, the Tony Stark story.
Heart of Iron, the Tony Stark story. Of course, we didn't even talk about the movie starting with the Whitney Houston song.
Yes!
And over the montage of all the heroes that passed away. So funny.
Oh, that kid's like, oh man, this ass is crazy. And she's like, you can't say that. He's like, it's last day of school. What are they going to do to me? That's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. All of the stuff they do with the blip, like them showing that basketball team playing, and all of a sudden the marching band just appears in the middle of
They're just there. Yeah.
It's so funny. May explaining the people that bought my apartment were very confused by me coming back as a blip. The wife thought I was a mistress. Their grandmother thought I was a ghost.
Oh my. So when discussing Gyllenhaal as Mysterio, producer Amy Pascal says, as much as we talked about Mysterio in a practical way, like how his powers would work in the movie, when Jake got involved, he brought a new level of humanity, unpredictability, and humor to the character. You and I basically just said that for the past hour and a half, but that's true. Like, dude, Mysterio could be the hokiest character of all time, but he's not here at all because Gyllenhaal made him real, man.
Yes.
It's good stuff.
Yes. But see, again, that's what makes the commentary they did here so excellent. Because it isn't just that he's using illusions to misdirect people, because he's got people helping him behind the scenes. All of those people are helping him because they believe in him.
Yeah, yes.
They follow him. He's their leader. It's just like he's having these little tantrums, like, do what I say, and they're never like, oh, this is crazy. But because again, they believe in him. They're all disenfranchised, and he offered them something. Yeah, it's what I keep saying a lot about the current status quo with politics and everything. They felt powerless after all of this stuff with Tony Stark, and he offered them something.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true. He said, Gyllenhaal said he loved playing the character. He said, I wanted to create a character that you won't forget.
Yeah.
It worked.
Yeah, of course, this isn't the first villain since the Trump era that has very much been influenced by Trump. Of course, the main villain played by Pedro Pascal in the second Wonder Woman movie, also very much influenced by Donald
Big
Trump.
time.
Like undeniably influenced by Donald Trump.
Undeniably. Horrible movie. Undeniably.
Yeah. Pedro's great in that movie, at least. But it's the same thing of like, hey man, life is great, but it could be better.
I'll help you get there. I'll show you.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is the first Spider-Man movie ever to gross over $1 billion.
Wow.
Yeah. Don't know if I knew that.
I'm sure some of that was the Avengers stimulus package coming right after one of the biggest Avengers movies ever, and people wanted to see what comes next.
That's true. Reportedly, Matt Damon turned down the role of Mysterio. Don't know if that's true, but that's reported.
Wow.
Dude, Matt Damon is phenomenal. I think he could. I wish that more guys would cross over. And like the guys that have crossed over, I mean, I don't know how much stuff you read with actors who were unhappy in Marvel, but I don't know that any are jumping off the top of my head. Most guys have a blast. Like,
yeah. Well, I don't think we'll be seeing the guy that played Red Skull again. He didn't seem like he had a lot of fun.
So I saw something recently where it was, I think it was a podcast where they were talking about this. And I think some of that was maybe misconstrued at the time, to his credit. Like, he enjoyed it, but like when the talk of coming back around happened, they were not going to pay up.
Yeah. I don't think he had the most fun doing all the prosthetics and makeup too.
Yeah, it could be, but I know they didn't want to pay up, which is a problem, of course, because we could have got more Red Skull, and that would have been awesome. Let's see. Spider-Man's new costume can now shoot webs from multiple locations on the suit because the technology behind the web shooters is more advanced than before. That's interesting. When the action scenes where they're going hot and heavy and full throttle, I can't say that I knew that, to be honest.
Yeah. That was a part that you see in him making the design of the suit.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, but man, that scene of him dropping down into the fight, and he's got the parachute behind him. So cool.
And by the way, the bit about Gyllenhaal talking about get this stupid costume off of me, supposedly he loved wearing the suit so much that he didn't want to take it off. And the only time you see Quentin, he's wearing that suit or the mocap suit. He's never wearing anything else.
Yes.
That's really good. Mysterio's illusion sequence contains 150 VFX shots and was based on the Dream films, A Nightmare on Elm Street and Paprika, and the animated feature Duck Amuck and the pink elephant's hallucination from Dumbo.
I could see that.
Yes. Great stuff. The song Happy plays while Peter is making his new suit is Back in Black by AC/DC, though Peter incorrectly identifies him. Oh man, I love Led Zeppelin. That's great. This is the same song that plays in the opening scene of the original Iron Man from 2008 when Tony makes his first appearance.
Yeah. Gonna throw another comic nod at you. The story arc that happened right after Civil War, that was the bridge between Civil War and One More Day, Back in Black.
Oh, very good. Very good. I'd never get all this stuff, man. That's why you don't podcast alone. It's no fun alone because you get all this other stuff adding to it, man.
I'm sure that probably wasn't intentional, but
still,
what a nice coincidence.
Synergy, yeah. Unplanned bit of synergy there. Jay Gyllenhaal has admitted that the film changed his perception of filmmaking quite radically. Prior to this, he approached every film from a very intense level, but with this one, he enjoyed the experience so much, it helped teach him how to be more relaxed on a film set.
Wow.
And again, come from a guy as talented as he is, that says a lot, man. Says a lot that that's the kind of environment that these guys produced for this. So the guys in the jail, it's a very fleeting moment. You could tell that they're football fans. You could tell they got arrested at a game because it probably got a little out of hand. But this is an actual football shirt as issued by the KNVB, the Royal Dutch Football Association, and used by the national football team. And they're all wearing the right colors and attire. And it's heavily implied they attended a football match, got drunk, and were all arrested for drunken disorderly behavior. Those guys are the nicest guys ever. And what's funny is when Peter breaks out, that dude just pulls the door shut. Like, yeah, we don't want to get in further trouble. We're okay. I'll just sit back down. That's great stuff.
Just got a little rowdy at a football game. That's all.
Yeah, that's all. It's fine. So J.B. Smoot, we were talking about earlier, his part was seriously beefed up after the production saw a commercial he did with Tom Holland for Aldi. The chemistry between the two was enough to warrant a rewrite of the screenplay. My God. They rewrote the screenplay to give Smoot more lines. Telling you, man, he needs to be in every movie. It's freaking great.
I wouldn't be surprised if that's the story behind his inclusion in Curb Your Enthusiasm, where he was probably only meant to be in a few episodes or just that season, but he was so funny that they kept bringing him back.
Yeah, for sure. This at the time of release, this movie had the most expensive marketing campaign for a film at $288 million. So I work in marketing. I don't know if I can quite imagine a 16th of that at this point. I don't know. $288 million. Oh my God. That's fun stuff. Yeah. Holland enjoyed the variety of costumes that Spider-Man gets to wear in this film. He likes them all so much he can't name a favorite, saying each one is a work of art. God, I love this guy. I just love when they love it, Phil. I just love when they love that they do this. Like, I don't know. It just, look, we've said this before. I don't need the world to validate my love of anything. It used to matter to me that people hated pro wrestling and hated comic books. I don't care about any of that now. I've grown past that. But what I do need validation from is the actors that play these roles. So when I know they're having a blast, it's awesome.
Yeah. You could tell Tom Holland loves playing this character.
Yeah.
You can tell that, all of the character notes, they mean something to him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What a fun movie.
Fun movie. Great movie. Yeah. That's, yeah. Good stuff. By the way, Jake Gyllenhaal, another little bit. He's the third Zodiac actor to join the MCU after Downey and Mark Ruffalo. That's a weird bit of trivia, isn't it?
I did not know that.
I didn't realize that. Yeah, I didn't realize that. Yeah, that's fun. Well, kids, we spent a lot of time on this one, but you know what? It's well worth it. And, Phil, we know what comes next. We know that No Way Home comes next. We get to see the trilogy of Spider-Man, which is something we never thought we'd see. But MCU goes out of their way and makes it their mission to make dreams come true. And they did so, and to satisfy fans, which is what they've done many, many times over. That's why I don't care what they produce at this point in time. If it misses, it misses. Like, Phil, the work that this studio has put in to make the fans happy, like, it is effing insane. The subtle things, a lot of stuff you pointed out here today that they will plug in as a wink and a nod to dedicated fans. Like, dude, if you're going to run a universe, if you're going to run something, you should take cues from the MCU, Phil, on how to not talk down to your fans, on how to pay it off for them paying attention, and how to deliver some very cool moments that everybody can't stop talking about, man. That's why I'm always in the bag for MCU. I don't care what anybody says.
Yeah. I mean, just the idea of, like we said, this narrative storyline of them showing how excited he is to be a part of the Marvel universe in the first movie and wanting to be an Avenger so bad. And in the second movie, he's running away from all of these things. And like I pointed out, the illusion scene happens in Berlin. When we see him in Berlin the first time, that's the first time we see him as Spider-Man. He's super excited to be there. We get the Underoos scene. And coming back to Berlin without Tony Stark, and it's this big nightmarish illusion scene. That's so smart, man.
So smart. All this, the Crusher Hogan poster, the Ben's Uncle Ben's suitcase. So many things they plug in is just, dude. If they didn't do half of this, maybe you wouldn't even miss them. It would still be a great movie. But the fact that they go out of their way to connect dots, like, it's crazy, man.
Yeah, I mean, even the dynamic between Peter and Nick Fury is basically lifted from Ultimate Comics.
Yeah.
Where, Sam Jackson as Nick Fury initially came from. But yeah, that their dynamic of him trying to recruit him early on, that's straight from those comics.
Mm-hmm.
Which, again, Brian Michael Bendis.
Yeah, God, Bendis, man. That dude's got to be, if Bendis isn't loaded, then he's got a terrible accountant at some point, because, like, that dude should be loaded. Yeah, and deservedly so. What a creator, man. So, well, kids, there you have it. There is Spider-Man Far From Home. And again, we have finished yet another trilogy. And that's what we do here. We make dreams come true here, too. Just not on I don't have a budget of $288 million. If I did, well, let me tell you. You maybe would have heard about this show more than you have. But yeah, Phil, as we wrap this up here, before we do the last word, what are you hoping for in a next film with these characters? What would you want to walk away from? What do you hope to see in the next movie?
I love the Home trilogy so much. I love that it does so much with this character, not just with Spider-Man as a character, but with the MCU version of Peter Parker. Like, we grow up with him. He's been up to that point in 5 movies.
Mm-hmm.
I believe 5 movies. So, well, technically 6, because he was in 2 Avengers movies. He was in Civil War, then 3 of his own movies, 6 movies. So, man, we really grew up with him across those 6 movies, and we followed his high school life. So, very curious to see if they're going to bring in a new love interest and what they do with that. Very curious to see what Peter Parker in college is like, what his life is like outside of this trilogy. But, man, just how great Spider-Man is. And I'm sorry if people cannot tell, I love Spider-Man. But putting this guy through the ringer and ending this trilogy with him making his own suit and jumping out the window and web slinging in the snow. Beautiful stuff. Like, I just
Great
can't wait to
stuff.
see what else they do with them.
Yeah, same. And look, I mean, I think we've said this. We may have said it in the last one. I mean, you could debate this all day, but I think Spider-Man's got to be the greatest character in the history of Marvel. I mean, you can make the case for other characters, but dude, worldwide impact, lasting impact.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I think it's Spider-Man.
I mean, the fact that they first started introducing the idea of multiverse in this movie and where they are with the multiverse era and the trailer we just got, if you ask me what the perfect scenario would be, Fantastic Four, however they get to this universe and they come through a multiverse portal or go down a black hole and they ended up in our universe, crash land here, and they get out of the ship and they're looking around and they're like, what is this place? And Spider-Man just randomly lands. It's like, who are you guys? Are you guys okay?
Oh, I mean, that Fantastic Four trailer, man, we talked off mic about this. There's so many possibilities here. I just believe it's a clean slate. I think they could do whatever they want to do. Like, Phil, they got a built-in audience, man. They could start over and probably not lose anybody.
Probably not lose anything. But of course say that because to me, I think it's more important for Spider-Man to interact with Fantastic Four than it is for him to interact with the Avengers because they're such a big part of his history as a comic book character. He debuted next to them in his first comic. He felt like a part of their family. And we talked a lot from this episode about his dynamic and him seeking refuge other places because he lost so many people. And they were like an extended family to him. And so coming into the next trilogy without him having everything from the home trilogy, I hope that he interacts with them a lot. I hope that he's one of the characters that interacts with them. We have never seen the Johnny Storm and Peter Parker dynamic on film. It has to happen.
I mean, I'm looking forward to that. I think that conversations, but I mean, the guys who just, there's so much in common there. Like, yeah, someone closer to his age who's actually doing what he does. Because Peter doesn't really have that at all. Yeah.
And there's so many ways you can get there. I mean, again, the idea of him being the first person they sees, or man, you could easily have like one of the end credit scenes of him showing up to Future Foundation or something. He goes, "You're Reed Richard. You're like this," and I want to show you something, and it's a piece of the symbiote.
Oh, or it's like behind glass. It's in glass, moving around behind him, but they don't reference it. Like just planting a seed.
Come on, man. I mean, we got the reference that a piece of the symbiote is in the Marvel universe, right? Because we got that from the end credit scene from No Way Home.
God, why do I not remember the end credit scene from No Way Home?
They made the joke with the Venom scene, and we see the piece of the symbiote got off before he gets ported back to his universe.
Yeah. Oh my. I mean, just tell me it's not going to be Venom. You know what I mean? Like, do you know what I mean? We're not doing that, are we?
I want to see a better version of Black Suit Spider-Man in this universe. So
I agree with that. I agree with that, but I don't want to see.
They don't have to do Venom right away, but I would love to see Black Suit Spider-Man.
Yeah. Oh my, that would be interesting. Well, there's just so much to cover there, and so much ground they could. So many stories they could tell, so much ground they could cover for sure. Because those stories have been successfully told in the books already, so they've got a lot to draw from. Well, kids, there you have it. There's the movie. There's what we think is coming soon, and or hopefully soon, in a year or so, give or take, and we'll see how it all pans out. We'll be here for it, and we'll record it, and then in a couple of years, forget we recorded it. So lots to look forward to, as always. Another reason to stay alive is another Spider-Man movie. So try to keep your heads up out there, even though it's all heart garbage and whole freaking world's falling apart, man. Swear to God. But Phil, let's try to put a positive spin on this and give me your last word on Spider-Man Far From Home.
Great movie. I think overhated by some people. We've been spoiled. We've got like a wealth of Spider-Man content, whether it be these movies, some great video games, a couple of great cartoons. Just started the new cartoon on Disney Plus. That's also great. I love this movie, man. There's so much I like about it. Jake Gyllenhaal's performance, Tom Holland really growing into this character, his chemistry with Zendaya. Just, I think, a fantastic movie.
Yeah, it's freaking awesome. I mean, it's another example of how they hired the right guy and got the right director and got the right screenwriters, and everything just clicks, kids. It all clicks. This is the Spider-Man that we grew up wanting to see. The Spider-Man we believe would only exist in comic books, and we've Marvel managed to make it work, and crazy the times that as comic book fans, the great movies we got to experience over the past 10, 15, 20 years. It's freaking nuts, man. Like, so glad to be part of that audience, man, and to see this stuff come to life. And hopefully a lot more to come, kids. So stay tuned for that. It's going to be a big couple of years for the MCU, man. A lot of good stuff on the way. And again, as I said before, we'll be covering it here on the show for sure. So stay tuned for that. And we'll get to it as it comes. But for now, that is Spider-Man Far From Home. Hey, thanks for listening to the show. Check out our social media on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at 6M Podcast. We'll see you next time.